Yep. This is one of those openings where the creator drinks to signal that the thing they're going to talk about is bad. Just kidding. This is a celebration drink. This video is going to be fun. Listen, I love you guys, and I love this job, so I really try to make well-produced, thought-provoking content. Small changes, rewrites, etc. But my New Year's resolution for 2020 is to have a little more fun. Every so often make a silly video that's entertaining for the sake of being entertaining. Well, this is not one of those videos. This may be the most important video that I have ever created. Cats the movie is a great and terrible miracle. It should not exist. At some point, money or taste or a fair and just God should have stopped this thing dead in its tracks. And yet, it exists, and the world is better for it. And I saw it 3 times, once sober. Just kidding, that first time I was buzzed. But I consider myself an expert on this strange little film, and I wanted to talk about it with you. The problem is, everyone and their mother has made a video that more or less amounts to Cats bad. And I didn't want to do that. So here is what I am going to do. I've picked a song. One that I believe you could argue is the dumbest song in Cats. Although I'd understand if someone had a different opinion. You can make the case that almost any song in Cats is the dumbest song in Cats. Except Skimbleshanks. Skimbleshanks is perfect. What are you, some sort of monster who hates tap dancing and trains and joy? But besides Skimbleshanks, all of the rest are up for grabs. The song I want to focus on in this video is Macavity. It shows up right around 2/3 of the way through Cats, and in case you have not seen Cats or your subconscious memory is trying to protect you from when you did see Cats, or maybe the tequila made you black out, here is a quick Lebowski Thor recap of everything that happens in Cats until the song Macavity. Where to start? The Jellicle Ball. Firstly, not a ball. Someone called it a ball before. It's more of a weird magical talent show sort of thing, so someone's gonna need to amend that and stop saying that. Here's an interesting story about the Jellicle Ball. Old Deuteronomy, many years ago, had to make the Jellicle choice of who gets reincarnated, but then Macavity, woo, scary cat. So actually, you know, Victoria got thrown out of the car this one time, and then the Jellicles introduced themselves to her, and she became very, very confused, and so they had to take her to the Jellicle Ball, which is where the Jellicle choice is made, and she had to try and become Jellicle. She wasn't Jellicle at the time. See, the Jellicles got to introduce her to Jenny Anydot, who is kidnapped by Macavity, and then Busterfer Jones, who was also kidnapped, and then Gus, the theater cat, and Skimbleshanks, the railway cat, who were also kidnapped, and no one's left to be the Jellicle choice besides Macavity. These things happen, you know, nothing lasts forever besides the memories. So yeah, still confused? So were we, it's fine. And even though I believe Macavity, sung by Taylor Swift in a more passable English accent than some other Americans, even though I believe Macavity is a thoroughly dumb song, I don't think it's a bad song. It's a catchy jazz number that keeps the energy up in the 3rd act, but it doesn't make any sense. So here's what we are going to do. I am going to go through some of the lyrics of Macavity, highlight what is strange or interesting about them, and talk about what that says about the musical and the film and the creative process more generally. Also, worth noting, I don't have footage of this song since it has yet to be released, so you'll be seeing a lot of me and a lot of pictures. And then second, I want to avoid a copyright strike, so I won't be playing the song because I need monies to buy nutrients. So listen to it on your own, it doesn't matter, we're just looking at the lyrics anyway. Let's do this. First line. Macavity is a mystery cat. He's called the Hidden Paw, for he's the master criminal who can defy the law. He's the bafflement of Scotland Yard, the flying squad's despair, for when they reach the scene of crime, Macavity's not there. This is the only reasonable part of the song. It teaches us a lot about Macavity, Mostly things we already know from previous meetings, but still good information to lay out. Macavity is what's called a mystery cat. His criminal alias is the Hidden Paw. He is a criminal who breaks laws. A little redundant, but fine. He's being pursued by Scotland Yard, the London Police, and the Flying Squad, a division of the London Police who deals specifically with robberies. And then we're going to hit the single dumbest lyric in the song, one that some version of is repeated 7 times in the song. For when they reach the scene of crime, Macavity's not there. This currently refers to London PD, but will eventually just be a general statement that when a crime's discovered, Macavity's not there. 3 issues. First one, not being there when the crime is discovered is the bare minimum for a master criminal. If you want to continue committing crimes, it helps to not be there when the crime is discovered. Second, outside of vandalizing a sign for Moriarty, which we will get to, the main crime we see Macavity commit is kidnapping, a crime that, by its very nature, you cannot stick around for. You are abducting someone and leaving the scene of the crime, so you can't be there when the crime is discovered. And then third, up until this point in the musical, we have seen Macavity kidnap 4 cats: Jenny Anydots, Bustopher Jones, Asparagus, and Skimbleshanks. Macavity kidnapped Jenny Anydots and Asparagus in secret. However, Macavity kidnapped Skimbleshanks at, I might add, the end of an electric train themed tap number, and when Macavity kidnapped Skimbleshanks, Macavity yelled, "Macavity!" So open and shut case. And Macavity kidnapped Bustopher Jones in view of all the other cats. And, not to nitpick, not unlike my podcast, Mostly Nitpicking, please subscribe, no one seems to care that Bustopher was kidnapped. They forget about it pretty much immediately and move on to the Jellicle Ball. Bustopher seems like kind of a jerk, but still, that's the kind of thing that warrants some curiosity. Otherwise, Macavity might start abducting cats people actually like. Anyway, everyone knows what Macavity is up to, and specifically, when his second kidnapping of the musical was discovered, Macavity was certainly there. So that line is a complete lie. Let's move on. Macavity, there's no one like Macavity. He's broken every human law, he breaks the laws of gravity. His powers of levitation would make a fakir stare. This is an important couple of phrases here. Let's start with the simple one. Macavity breaks the laws of gravity. At first glance, that seems like an exaggeration. He breaks so many laws that he even breaks the fundamental laws of the universe. But then, the very next line is praising Macavity's powers of levitation and comparing them to that of a fakir, a Muslim or Hindu monk who is often described as being able to levitate. So it seems like this song is serious about Macavity being able to levitate, which he does not do in this musical. He teleports, that's the magic he does, and before you say Macavity levitated Skimbleshanks, I would argue that it is possible, if not likely, that Skimbleshanks was levitating on his own, ascending into heaven after performing the greatest tap routine in the history of cinema. But the more egregious line, Macavity has broken every human law. Every human law. Now, it is unclear when Cats takes place. Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats, the book of poetry by T.S. Eliot, upon which the musical is based, was released in 1939, so that would be a logical place to start. The musical itself was released in 1980, and I would say that the musical skews closer to the 1980s, even possibly being set in the present day, for a couple of reasons. The first thing you can use to rule out the 1930s setting is the pair of breakdancing cats. And sure, maybe they just know how to breakdance naturally and didn't learn it from people. I will accept that. However, the breakdancing cats wear high-top sneakers, which were popularized in the 1980s. But let's even ignore those for a second. After all, Converse All-Stars have been around since the 20s. My best shot at dating this movie comes down to one line. While she is fighting Growl Tiger, Jenny Anydots refers to herself as a crazy cat lady. Now, while the idea of a woman who owns many cats being crazy isn't anything new, the phrase itself is. It's impossible to pinpoint exactly when it made its way into the public consciousness, but after some research, I couldn't find any reference to it before the 1970s. Most people believe the phrase itself was popularized by The Simpsons and its character Eleanor Abernathy, but it's unclear. If you want to be really generous, it's likely that this movie takes place in 1982. The only reason I'm going to all this trouble is to narrow down exactly which human crimes Macavity has committed, so no cybercrime. But we do have arson, assault, battery, bribery, burglary, conspiracy, contempt of court, defamatory libel, espionage, extortion, fabrication of false evidence, forgery, harboring a fugitive, high treason, incitement, inebriation, kidnapping, larceny, manslaughter, mayhem, murder, petty treason, piracy, riot, running a brothel, sedition, theft, trespassing, also a bunch of different kinds of fraud like securities fraud, telemarketing fraud, check fraud. Apparently, Macavity also created a pyramid scheme. Macavity is a very bad cat. Now let's skip ahead to the dumbest verse. The verse that assumes we do not have eyes. Macavity's a ginger cat. He's very tall and thin. You would know him if you saw him, for his eyes are sunken in. His brow is deeply lined with thought. His head is highly domed. His coat is dusty from neglect. His whiskers are uncombed. He sways his head from side to side with movements like a snake. And when you think he's half asleep, he's always wide awake. So, if you have not seen the movie, this might not be incredibly clear, but virtually none of this applies to the Macavity in the movie. He is not a ginger cat. He has brown fur. He is not particularly tall or thin, especially when compared to the other cats. His eyes aren't sunken in, his brow isn't deep, his head might be domed, I guess. His coat isn't particularly dusty, and his whiskers are in pretty good shape. He does not sway his head from side to side. This is one of my biggest problems with this film. Cats is an adaptation, a reinterpretation of an existing work. And while an important part of adapting something like Cats is maintaining the spirit of the original musical, that doesn't mean you can't make any changes. A good adaptation should not just be a shot-for-shot remake of the original. The Lord of the Rings movies are a great example of a successful adaptation that takes some liberties with the source material. For instance, the Return of the King novel ends with the Scouring of the Shire. Sauron attacks and the hobbits are forced to drive him out. But Peter Jackson chose to leave it out of the film because he thought it would hurt the pacing and create yet another ending. Those choices are crucial for a movie like this. And even in a mediocre movie musical adaptation, you can make changes to songs without changing the spirit of the original play. The Aladdin remake had plenty of issues, but they did change a few lines. Slaves were now servants, updating the lyric to not make Aladdin a slave owner. Sunday Salam was Friday Salam, since Friday is the actual holy day. And in Friend Like Me, a line was changed from Mr. Aladdin, sir, to Hey Mr. What's Your Name, because Aladdin had not been introduced formally to the genie yet, and the genie did not know his name. Good small changes. So in my opinion, there is nothing wrong with changing the lyrics to better fit the adaptation. For instance, instead of Macavity's a ginger cat, let's say Macavity is a brownish cat, or a chocolate cat, or an auburn cat, just so it matches whatever's on screen. Or, and this is the obvious answer to this issue, just make Macavity look the way the song describes him, make him a ginger cat. In the stage play, Macavity looks completely different, and he kinda matches the description from the song. Messy ginger fur, generally crazy looking. Movie Macavity does not look anything like this. Also, if we're talking about the physical description of Macavity, we have to talk about Sherlock Holmes, and make sure you have a working knowledge of Sherlock Holmes' arch nemesis, Professor Moriarty. because not only is the character of Macavity based off of Moriarty, large portions of the poem upon which the Macavity song is based seem to be lifted directly from Holmes' sunken eyes, a brow deeply lined with thought, and a domed head are all right out of the novels. Macavity will also eventually refer to himself as the Napoleon of crime, a phrase commonly used to describe Moriarty. So Moriarty is a criminal mastermind in the Sherlock Holmes books. He is described as a spider sitting in a web of crime. Moriarty doesn't participate in the crimes themselves. Moriarty only organizes and supervises. He is the intellectual equal to Sherlock Holmes. He is not a talking cat. That's only Macavity. And I would be doing a disservice if I did not mention the real person who Moriarty is based on, named Adam Worth. I won't get too much into it now, but suffice it to say that Adam Worth might be the most interesting person who ever lived. He was an actual master criminal who actually organized crime all over the world in the mid to late 19th century. It boggles my mind that Hollywood makes a Robin Hood movie every 3 years, but have only made one movie featuring Worth. He's fascinating. But whatever, Macavity is a cat, based off of a cat from a play, based off of a cat from a book, based off of a super criminal from a book, based off of a super criminal from real life. Eat your heart out, Lincoln Osiris. So, Macavity is based on a fictional character, which is complicated even more by the fact that in the world of cats, the Sherlock Holmes books seem to exist, since Macavity's very subtle entrance at Piccadilly Circus involves Macavity teleporting onto the marquee for, I guess, some sort of Moriarty-themed play. Then the marquee for Moriarty changes to Macavity, which would suggest that Macavity is less of a Moriarty of cats and more of a very committed Moriarty cosplayer. Couple of other small details before we get to the worst part, the stupid climax. Macavity, Macavity, there's no one like Macavity, for he's a fiend in feline shape. This is not feline shape, this is human shape. Moving on. He's outwardly respectable, I know he cheats at cards, and his footprints are not found in any files of Scotland Yards. And when the larder's looted and the jewel case is rifled, or when the milk is missing or another peak's been stifled, or the greenhouse glass is broken and the trellis past repair, there's the wonder of the thing, Macavity's not there. This line is a little clunky because the song is traditionally sung as a duet between Demeter and Bombalurina. In the movie, they cut Demeter and gave all of the lines to Bombalurina. It doesn't present a huge problem, except this bridge reads less like just another list of Macavity's crimes, and more like a conversation between Demeter and Bombalurina, where they're trying to one-up each other with what they know Macavity has done. This verse also very subtly slips Macavity's most reprehensible crime in between a bunch of normal ones, and it's easy to miss because of how unusual most of the words are to a non-British audience. Let's go through a translated version of the bridge. And when things have been taken from the pantry, and when things have been taken from the jewel box, and when milk has been stolen, or when another small dog has been strangled, or when the greenhouse glass is broken, or when the thing that holds the plants is broken. Anything seem different than the other things? Another peak refers to a Pekingese dog, and not just any dog, a cute one. And the word stifled in this context means suffocated. So not only did Macavity kill a cute dog, he did it in a brutal hands-on way. Macavity is truly a bad cat. Last lyric worth mentioning. And they say that all the cats whose wicked deeds are widely known, I might mention Mungo Jerry, Rumpelteazer, Griddlebone, are nothing more than agents for the cat who all the time just controls the operations, the Napoleon of crime. If you saw the movie, this should prompt a question. Hey, I remember Mungo Jerry and Rumpelteazer. They had that fun song that's way better in the stage musical because the rhythm is generally peppier and it ends with a fantastic double cartwheel. But still, I know who those guys are. But who is Griddlebone? And the answer is, shut up, just keep moving. Did you hear about how Macavity isn't there when the crimes are discovered? You don't remember Griddlebone because Griddlebone was cut from the film. for a very decent reason. You see, one of the songs from the musical that didn't make it into the movie is called Growl Tiger's Last Stand. In the stage musical, Gus the theater cat actually does some acting and replays one of his favorite roles as Growl Tiger the pirate. In this number, we learn the story of the fearsome Growl Tiger and how he was defeated by some pretty yeesh-inducing Siamese pirates. The number contains a duet with Growl Tiger's love interest, Grittlebone. So in the Cats musical, we meet Grittlebone, and then she is referenced later in the musical. It's unclear why it was cut, maybe because of racial sensibilities, maybe 2 hours is the amount of cats that someone can take before they descend into madness, or maybe that's the limit in what can technically be described as a war crime, and they needed to keep cats under that runtime. Whatever the reason, we are never introduced to Grittlebone. She's there apparently in the background somewhere, but not a character. Yet Macavity does not change the lyrics to reflect the fact that it introduces, seemingly out of nowhere, another random cat with a nonsense name who only fans of the musical would even recognize. Why not change the line? And they say the wicked deeds of all us cats are widely known. Heinous crimes of Rumpelteazer, Mungo Jerry, and my own. Fine, and not confusing. But hey, who am I? Cats director Tom Hooper? And speaking of Tom, I want to close this out with my favorite story about the production of Cats, and it just so happens to involve the song Macavity. According to legend, Taylor Swift and I assume a giant entourage with many E's and turtles and such were invited by Tom Hooper to look at some early renderings of the Cats. And I assume this took place on April 1st, and when everyone involved saw the Cats, they thought Hooper was playing a hilarious prank. But anyway, after talking about the scene, Taylor Swift's father chimed in with an idea. What if Bombalurina drugged all of the cats with catnip? That's how she gets all of the other cats out of the way so that Macavity can kidnap Old Deuteronomy, or as she is sometimes called, Old Doot. And the catnipping is completely unnecessary since Macavity just teleports over to steal Doot like he does for everyone else, but whatever, that was the idea. Bombalurina could catnip everyone. And according to legend, and I swear, this is what everyone says happened, Tom Hooper said, "What's catnip?" And after they realized he was not joking, everyone showed Tom Hooper videos of cats reacting to catnip so he could be on board with a basic cat thing. And that's why I think this was a problem. Why Tom Hooper couldn't go through the lyrics with a fine-tooth comb and make sure they accurately reflect what's going on screen. Why the cat CGI looks so terrifying. Why the movie is how it is. Because I honestly don't believe Tom Hooper knows what a cat is. And that's probably not great if you're directing a movie about cats. Oh, and one more thing. If you, like Tom Hooper, don't know what a cat is, I would highly recommend taking a look at the documentary, The Secret Life of Cats, on this video sponsor, CuriosityStream. In this documentary, you learn a lot of things, like how cats have paws and not human fingers with wedding rings. And right now, if you subscribe to CuriosityStream, you also get a subscription to Nebula, a creator-owned streaming service that I helped create. And on Nebula, you can watch a video that I made about how the One Punch Man title sequence helps to define the character of Saitama and his depression, and set some purposefully unrealistic expectations for the series to explore. That video only exists on Nebula, as well as videos from Cinema Wins, Now You See It, Captain Midnight, and a bunch of other awesome creators you probably already like. So right now, if you go to curiositystream.com/Nando for unlimited access to the world's top documentaries and nonfiction series, you also get a subscription to Nebula for free. And on top of that, you enter the promo code NANDO, N-A-N-D-O, when prompted during the sign-up process, and your membership is completely free for the first 30 days. It's an insanely good deal. I think you guys are really gonna dig it. And I really hope you enjoyed my video about One Punch Man. As always, I have to give a huge thank you to everyone who continues to support the channel on Patreon, including the members of the new Patreon tier, the Illuminati. Oh, what a cool name! If you haven't heard of it, here's the deal. You throw in $5 a month or more, and you will become part of a group that gets to suggest and then vote on topics for my monthly one-take rant videos, where I will take a question or a topic and talk about it for about a half an hour. It's fun. It's going to be pretty freeform. The first one, the one we're doing for January, which was voted on by the Illuminati, is how would I introduce the Fantastic Four into the Marvel Cinematic Universe? It's a question I get all the time when I'm not quite ready for like a full video yet, but maybe eventually those ideas will be part of an official Nando V Movies video someday. But for now, it's just a fun thing between me and you guys, and any patron will be able to watch the video, but only the Illuminati will be able to decide what that video is about. So throw in any amount of money, it all helps. Patreon.com/NandoVMovies. Also, definitely listen to my podcast, Mostly Nitpicking, where every week me and my co-hosts DJ and Diggins pick apart a piece of pop culture by looking exclusively at the details. We've done Cats, we've done Star Wars, we've done the Bad Boys movies. We are about to do our Doolittle podcast, which is gonna be something, because I've seen that movie and whoo boy. You can find us wherever you listen to your podcasts. We are at Nitpicking Pod on Twitter. Last thing, as always, follow me on Twitter and Instagram. My tag is NandoVMovies. It's where I post updates on videos and podcasts, and where I just complain and shake my fists at the heavens about how Dolomite Is My Name was not nominated for Best Picture or any of the other awards it deserved. Although, go back and watch Eddie Murphy's speech at the Oscars, and it'll be pretty clear why. Not that he doesn't deserve it, but because I think that's probably why they didn't like it. It was because he was telling the truth, you know, and you can't do that. You can't speak truth to power. And you know what? That's almost kind of what Dolomite is about. So it's a very fitting way to not get that very good movie nominated for the award, is to have the main guy who made the movie go and talk to the award people and say, this is why you're out of touch and why you don't appreciate, you know, the kind of art that, in his case, African Americans are making at the time. Anyway, I am Nando V Movies on Twitter and Instagram. That is all I've got. I will see you next time.